Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. And a face that's like 3 miles long! But hey, it could be worse. I could be a subhuman monster. Never mind that I'm sure there are those out there who would say that I am. The point is that it's a means for me to segue into a specific genre of movie that I'm going to review today. That being horror, and to some extent a zombie movie. I mean a proper zombie horror movie. I have to specify that nowadays because it seems that a lot of people think that an action movie with splattery zombies in it is somehow a horror movie. With this in mind, today we're looking at Mulberry Street, an independent horror movie released in 2006, set in New York, and specifically the heart of Little Italy, Mulberry Street. The film is handicapped out of the gate due to its microscopic budget of $60,000. Far less than even The Asylum spends on its movies on average. This means that, no real big flashy special effects, no huge big name stars, and, yeah, it's got a very indie feel to the whole thing. Nevertheless, let's take a look at Mulberry Street and see if it can somehow be something beyond its potential. After we're treated to dark pipes of darkness and ratty rats with eerie echoes, we suddenly shift over to... There's a dream I've been sitting for a day. Getting to know New York City to the sound of country pop from 1970. Well, certainly setting the mood for horror first and foremost. The opening also introduces us to Clutch, played by Nick Damisi, whom also happened to co-write the movie with director Jim Mickle. Aside from a morning jog in New York, this opening establishes that evidently Chrome Development has come to town and will be revamping Lower Manhattan. And this is a bad thing, I think. We never really see much of them in this movie, but the news said that people were protesting, so... yes? This change does effectively alter the property value in this region, so poor apartment tenants will either have to deal with whatever new charges are applied, or GTFO, so I think that falls in the bad things category.
Clutch, you see Ross?
Hey, Charlie. He's in the basement.
All the power's out. My toilet is broken.
Introducing us to Charlie, played by Larry Fleischman, though this also makes me wonder if he can really hold that much of a grudge against Chrome Development. I mean, they came in and interrupted their peaceful lives of wondering when that building was going to collapse in on itself. Never mind all this character building or fleshing out the world, though. The thing I'm glad to see is that the body count has started. Okay, while I am willing to accept that a horror movie rat is more than capable of killing a young woman, how in the fuck did it drag her corpse into those cardboard boxes? And she is too well off to be homeless. She was well off before. Back to introducing characters, we meet overly friendly neighbor Lady Kay, played by Beau Corey, and our subplot star Kim Blair, whom plays Casey. She's a military woman on her way back home to her 2 dads, who has to suffer through the torment of public transportation. And while I personally sympathize with her plight, I kinda just summed up every scene she's in for the first half of the movie. Oh well, let's take a look at another member of the military, played by... it doesn't really matter anymore. After that, we learn that Kay is a single mother with Javier Picayo playing her teenage son, Otto. He's supposed to wake up to go to school, but, oh dear, the lad's got a fever. So does this mean that he himself has contracted the zombie virus and will slowly change as the movie progresses? No, it just leaves me wondering when his death will occur, as he has already earned it by horror movie standards. Not quite as fast as Ross here, played by Tim House, who happens to find a dead rat in the basement. So he does the most logical thing he can think of, and tries to poke at it. Just when he thought New York rats couldn't get any harder to exterminate, the motherfuckers are undead on top of it! It doesn't take long before Ross begins having adverse symptoms, but not wanting to spoil the horror movie, he ignores those and continues working. On the gripping drama of poverty-stricken apartment life, Clutch fishes Kay's undergarments out of his tree and prepares to return them.
Well, girl throws her underwear in your window, she's saying something. Trust me, I'm a connoisseur of errors.
It also seems like Coco, played by Ron Price, is simply homosexual, while Clutch is bisexual, and it appears that they are in an open relationship.
You gonna ask her out?
I'm too old.
It's a movie. 60-year-old movie stars routinely win the 20-ish-year-old female prize at the end. While Kay may not have been particularly smart to let her unmentionables take flight, her son's arguably even less intelligent when it comes to covering his ass after his deception.
You don't leave this apartment today, do you hear me? That means no TV, no radio, no nothing, and you better clean this place up.
Well, it's not like he's rocking a PS4 and Wii U in there. Hey, come to think of it, why the hell did he play hooky? I know kids generally don't want to go to school, but when you're broke as fuck, the chance to eat lunch does have some allure to it. As Ross continues to ignore any and all signs that he's at least horribly ill, that gives us, the viewers, a chance to see the first physical change of his transformation. Fuzzy ears. Okay, so budget was tight, but ear fuzz! Horrifying! And unsightly. Around town, more people are finding themselves on the business end of inexplicably crazy people who like to bite, but strangely seem very apathetic towards taking any action seriously.
People get bit by rats every day in the city. This is an isolated incident.
And the ear fuzz is probably another damn fashion trend. I can't keep up with kids these days with their PlayStations and their dubstep and their equal rights. Fuck, I don't know. The attacks continue, increasing in frequency, but that's no reason to forget about the drama plotline now, so Clutch returns Kay's underwear at her workplace, and bafflingly enough, this does not result in her calling the police.
Thank you. Oh, hey, I got some lipstick on.
Don't worry about that. You don't want to know what I did to these before bringing them back to you. Clutch doesn't stick around too long near the woman, lest he risk the relationship actually progressing. Instead, we get to see that the streets are beginning to swarm with emergency response vehicles and confused citizens. Okay, things are beginning to be very obviously bad. Is anyone gonna notice? Things are getting even worse back at home as well, where Ross chops up some meat to eat in extreme close-up horror mode, before having a very strange conversation with Coco.
What are you wearing? You're wearing something musky.
I never wear anything in.
Yes, interestingly enough, despite having a conversation with a man who is distinctly in the process of turning into a monster, Coco didn't think anything of it. It's all over the news that rat bites and horrible diseases have swept the city today, but screw that. Kay still has a job to do, and a pending zombie apocalypse is no reason to interrupt New York's nightlife. Okay, seriously guys, we are 40 minutes into the movie. What the hell is it going to take for you people to realize that some shit is going on? That'll do it. At this point, the tone and feel of the movie changed drastically, and it looks like the cast did learn a thing or two from Project Zomboid, utilizing a handy-dandy frying pan as a zombie deterrent. Now all that is left is to find shelter.
Let me in! No way, man. How do I know you're not one of them? Don't look like one of those fucking things. Let me in! No, tough shit.
As we all know, working together for the good of all is how to pull through during a zombie apocalypse, which is enough of a hint that New York is fucked in a half. Fear not, though, for Kay has a baseball bat. No, a gun might be useful. Any gun. It at least buys her some time, so we can watch Clutch and friends muse over what they feel is the source of the crisis.
I better spend a lot on that rat bastard.
Because fuck evidence when a conclusion is far more satisfying. Ross shows up to help set the record straight, and it looks as if he's taken on some peculiar features from the contamination. The zombie virus turns people into giant rat people. A rat-pocalypse.
We're all gonna die.
Clutch tries to make sure everyone is alright, which includes Kay, of course, whom he is unable to reach. Still, he can save her son.
You get dressed, come down to my apartment.
I can't. I told my mom to stay here. I'm grounded.
I'm ungrounding you. Get your ass dressed, you come down to my apartment, alright?
But I...
There's no buts about it.
Oh, come on, Clutch. Don't fight the kid on this one. Just keep him home, and we'll let nature take its course. That being a 3-course meal. As the roads have been blocked and everything has gone to hell, Casey still is doing everything in her power to get home, rat monsters or no. I know family's family, but when they say we'll meet up in heaven, they don't necessarily mean they have to all go at the same time. But the time has come for Clutch to rescue the princess, and he gets his fists ready. Okay, I know that gun laws in New York are pretty restrictive, but should have a couple kicking around, and even if you don't, wouldn't anything be better than your fists when it comes to fighting off zombies? You know, don't get too close. On the plus side, we do get a pretty high-octane action scene out of this, and a fight between Clutch and a Ratman that is probably the furthest along in the transformation a la Rodentia. Though personally, the makeup reminds me of Nosferatu. After beating the shit out of a classic horror icon, Clutch makes it to Kay's bar, and then decides that one rat zombie preoccupied with eating a fresh victim would be too dangerous, so he sneaks past him. That's not gonna come to bite him in the ass later on. Figuratively or otherwise. Speaking of things coming back to bite you... Not exactly important to the plot, but fuck it, at least the movie knows how to have fun with itself. This leads to...
I was running through the wind, but all the time, for it was just a dream.
Another musical montage with more of Arthur Lee's work, which it's nice, but it does feel kind of out of place in a rat-themed zombie movie from 2006. But there's a bump, so they must discover its origin, which happens to be Big Vic, played by John Hoyt, who is probably the biggest star in this movie, which means they couldn't afford to keep him around for very long. How many times do we have to tell these monsters we don't do takeout here? Clutch and Kay escape out the other door while we suddenly go back to Clutch's apartment to see how Coco is dealing with their rodent resident.
Just shut the hell up!
You see? All you had to do was ask. Actually, Ross used his new rat superpowers to chew his way out and kill the cat. No, I can handle women and children being eaten by rat monsters. I can deal with a zombie-infested New York City. I'm looking forward to Otto being offed. But killing a cat, that's just going too far, movie. Too far. Coco uses a little ingenuity and a lot of low-budget special effects to get Ross to retreat. Back with Clutch and Kay, who should they happen to run into but Casey, thus reuniting father and daughter at last. Hold on, though. This is a truck. 2-seater. Damn right, Zombie Rat knows how it is. Two's company. Three's a snack. With her no longer an issue, they very quickly return to Clutch's apartment so we can have our touching scene of Casey finally coming home, which immediately moves on to everyone picking out weapons and then listening to the radio for any updates.
We blew a fuse. No. Power's out.
Well, damn it, now I suppose we gotta spend the apocalypse lighting candles and searching for the Uno deck. The deck will have to wait because the Ratmen have managed to get inside the main hallway, so Clutch calls Charlie and Frank through the vents, and Charlie does everything in his power to fuck up the situation. Seriously, there's nothing else I have to add, just look for yourself.
Don't go to the hallway. Don't open the door.
Strangely enough, this was a terrible idea, but on the plus side, it gives us a slower-paced scene, building tension, up until the critters break through and the two old men give us what is perhaps the most badass heroic death of the film.
MCO!
Which does not result in structural instability or the building catching fire because... budget constraints. Clutch, Coco, and Casey careen towards the cistern to clear out, but Coco is caught by the cannibalistic creature and captured to be consumed consequentially. Maybe I should stop going to thesaurus.com so much. Nevertheless, they survive until morning, at which point we see that at least one containment unit has been sent to quell the threat. How useful! As well as helicopters, so Clutch and Casey climb, ascend the fire escape in hopes of being spotted. So the hazmat squad are sweeping the ground floor while the survivors are on the roof. That means that the rat monsters will... shit. As expected, the beasts begin breaking through, meaning the last two survivors in the movie have to fight for their lives. Last three survivors in the movie. Yeah, bright lights annoy the Ratmen, and the flash of a camera can stun them. They did establish this early in the movie, it's just... never fucking came into use at all until now.
Mom?
Damn it, Clutch, wrong one! At least do him too while you're at it. No time to kill the kid, as rat zombie Coco has arrived, but does not kill the shit out of Clutch. Unfortunately, this is because it turns out that the man has been bitten. So... the decontamination team is here, so you made it. You survived the night, and yeah, kind of fucked on all counts there. You might think this is a sad ending, but don't be so quick to judge. After all, while everyone we've grown to know has been killed, someone finally got Otto. Yeah, that was, pretty damn dark. And pretty damn good. And pretty damn reminiscent of many other horror movies I've seen. But, for all it's not bad, Mulberry Street is an interesting case in horror films. For one thing, trying to harken back to an older style of zombie film, and for the other, the fact that the movie's budget was practically non-existent. Interestingly enough, on that latter part, it seems like the producers really came through. While the budget was so small, I still have trouble believing it. The spirit given to the film by the writing, direction, and yes, even the acting, came off as genuine, and really held the entire thing up despite that. In that sense, I think that this is the kind of movie that should be shown to film students. Not Deadfall Trail, which not only wasn't as well put together, had nearly twice the budget and actually is shown to film students for some reason, but this isn't about that. Back on topic, the casting of this movie was quite a bit different than your usual horror film from the 2000s. I've grown accustomed to having less than 1% of the cast over the age of 40, but in this movie, the main stories we follow are those middle-aged or older. This might come off as a cheap gimmick, except for the fact that the characters are written so well, they feel like real people. That's the movie's strongest quality. While it's very slow to get started, the time we spend with the characters seems less about establishing mundane traits to be used later, and more likely we're just peeking into their daily lives. The middle of the film feels more like a zombie action flick, but it is entertaining in its own right. The ending, though, that requires some thought. On one hand, I appreciate an ending that is not cut and dry good, plus actually feels believable. On the other, I have to mention that this felt very reminiscent of the original Night of the Living Dead. I know that's the feel they were going for, and it's hard to have a similar ending that isn't almost the exact same, but still. Enjoyable, but not original. Overall, Mulberry Street takes some spare change, and a movie genre that's been done to death, and breathes new life into it, but does still manage to repeat a few things in the process. The passion of the creators oozes through the production, forgiving it of some of its flaws, but while enjoyable, the film is undoubtedly far from perfect, coming in at 3 undergarments lost in the breeze out of 5. It's also worth noting that this is a movie set in New York that felt like New York without resorting to the same 10 because it's New York jokes. And also, this was actually filmed in New York. I fucking swear, it's like indies are the only ones that get it right sometimes. Thank you all for watching. I have been Decker Shado, and remember, Orkin, seriously, it's not worth the risk.
Open up!